Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again, coming at you from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Sunday, nice beautiful day again. Another amazing day. I got to spend pretty much the entire day yesterday outside. It was probably in the 60s most of the day and beautiful day. So hope everyone's doing good. Hopefully everyone has had a great weekend. My weekend was actually really awesome. I got to see. I've said many times on some shows in the past that my in my free time and when I have the time to do it, my favorite thing to do is to go out to the movies, go out see music, and I got to see a shit ton of music this weekend. I must have seen about probably saw about 12 bands in the course of 2 days. It was pretty amazing. I had a friend's band playing on Friday, and I went out to that, and that was really great at Hey Sailor. And then yesterday, I went to this really awesome music festival, art festival kind of thing that I had just found out about pretty last minute, and it was great. It was like 8 hours or so, and there was all kinds of kind of indie folk, punk, uh, definitely every there were a few bands that definitely had the punk kind of sound and a little bit of a crusty punk edge. And then there was a bunch of vendors. They had some good food, great Mexican tacos, arts and crafts. Um, it was really cool. So I went to this event last night in Rockland, and it was an all day, all night thing. I went from like 2 to like 10 at night, and I got there around 4. Met some cool people there. It was a great time. And again, it was fun because I got to see a whole bunch of music that I hadn't seen or seen a bunch of bands I never heard of before. So it was great. It was a really action-packed weekend, and so it was a lot of fun. And then last night I came home and I finished up the amazing special features for Lake Mundo, Lake Mungo, and so I finished a show on this edition that I just bought. This will be my second video coming up on this incredible movie. So, very important movie. I think anybody who is into the horror movie genre, should definitely see this movie. Uh, Pretty amazing film. So, and then on the side of that, I've been slowly finishing up. I have about one, two. I think I have actually have three more movies. Well, including after today, it will be two more for that I have for completing my coverage of the Friday 13th franchise. So it's been great, and I always have. Well, it's not a bad thing. It's not something I would ever in a million years complain about. I always have a stack of movies to get to, so it never the well never runs dry here at the Film Fanatic headquarters as far as films to watch. Whether it's movies I've been buying, which is 90% of the time that's the case. That's the case for me, as I because I this year I've been buying a ton of movies, and then I'm going over to dinner at my folks tonight, and we always have this tradition whenever we have dinner is I always bring movies over. They're big time. They're really into film and movies and stuff too, and so I got a few movies to bring over. So we'll see how that goes. See if there's any good movies that stand out, and I might do some shows on those. I tend to. It's funny. I tend to only. I watch movies all the time, and there's a lot of movies that I watch at home. Most of the movies I watch are home here at the headquarters, Film Fanatic headquarters. And yeah, there's movies that I see that I don't like, or like newer movies that I'm not very excited about, movies that grow on me, movies that blow me away. And I typically don't. If I see a movie that doesn't really that I have a lot of issues with, I won't usually do a show on it. When I'm covering movies here at home, and definitely movies in my collection, I try to spend the time. I try to keep the show pretty positive, but I try to spend that time and energy just focusing on movies I really love or movies that really excite me. But when I make that exception, I bend that rule when I go to the movies. I usually will do a review of that film, whether it was good or whether it was bad. Thumbs up or thumbs down. It's still the experience. Like, even a great example of that is when I went to, went with a friend, went with a friend in August to go see, it's hard to believe it was August already. We had gone to go see the new Alien movie, Romulus. And we drove all the way to Saco, Maine at the IMAX theater. And that movie was a serious letdown in many ways. And I did multiple shows on that video, on that movie. So, but the experience going there, going to IMAX, anybody out there hasn't experienced IMAX, it's pretty unbelievable. Like, it really is. It's uh, it's the most immersive, most powerful way to see a movie. But even that being said, it can't make a good movie good. I mean, it can't make a movie that's bad. It can't turn it into this wonderful thing because of from a sheer technological, immersive environment that is. A bad movie is a bad movie. So, but that was kind of a real big bummer. But I still did a show on it. I did a review of it, and I typically bend that rule when it comes to seeing a movie in the theater, only because it's like, it's obviously more of an expense. You're spending your money on a ticket. Tickets are more expensive now, and concessions and all those things. But I still believe, and I love that. So that's why I'll still do a show on that movie or that experience, regardless if it was good or bad. So today's show is going to be on yet another Friday 13th movie in the my favorite franchise. This is I think it's the third movie that New Line Cinema put out. Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason were all New Line Cinema films. New Line Cinema bought the rights from Paramount for Friday 13th. I believe it was the Jason Takes Manhattan was the last one that they put out, Paramount. And then after that, it was kind of bought to, bought by another company, being New Line Cinema. It was also the emergence of Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees, and he also, became the, the longest lasting character or actor to play Jason. I really love Jason. The thing that's really kind of screwy about this movie, Freddy vs. Jason, which I really love, I think this movie is actually really awesome. In that documentary I mentioned, I recently watched a documentary about Kane Hodder, and he talked about how he kind of got screwed out of playing. He did not play Jason Voorhees in this big movie. This movie was talked about for so long. New Line Cinema also owns the rights, obviously, for the Nightmare on Elm Street films with Freddy Krueger. So there was always this big master plan to have that crossover where Jason Voorhees was going to fight Freddy Krueger. And there was going to be this unification of both of those worlds, the Nightmare on Elm Street world and the Friday 13th world. So this was, finally, everything was kind of building to it, and it finally happened. But Kane Hodder was, cut out. And it was weird. I watched this documentary about Kane Hodder, and he talked about it, and he has kind of let it go, but I learned a lot. The documentary itself, like I've said, is okay. It's pretty good. But the story of his his journey as an actor and as a person was pretty extraordinary. I was kind of blown away by it, and it gave me a new appreciation for Kane Hodder. I've always liked him, but I've always been a Ted White guy, and still am. Obviously, he's still my favorite. In the series of playing Jason Voorhees, he played Jason Voorhees in the final chapter. But I always thought Kane Hodder was good. But I do, and I actually, after watching these movies again for the billionth time, I was like, this is kind of kick ass. Like, I'm digging this more and more. I think Jason Voorhees, that characterization of him in these films is really great. The design of him is pretty fantastic. So I have really come on to Team Kane Kane Hodder. I've really this I'm now a team member of his of his whole thing. I'm a big fan of his, and he's great. But when he was talking about the Freddy versus Jason movie and how he kind of got cut out by the studio after like really kind of becoming, and he still remains like the face of Friday 13th. I was like, wow, like that's really kind of fucked up. And I almost was like, well, fuck this. I'm not going to cover this movie because out of some kind of weird personal protest around that. But, which is kind of a separate thing, kind of related, obviously. But I didn't do that. And so I decided to cover this movie because it is really great. And they really did a fabulous job with pulling all of these things together, pulling both of these universes together, with it being the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and also the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Freddy vs. Jason came out in 2003. It was directed by Ronnie Yu. It's a gore fest. It really is. It's a cage fight, a bloody ass cage fight, and they did a great job. I think blending, I think the universe for both of these franchises is so involved, and it's such a well known mythology. Freddy and Jason. There are obviously so many movies tied to both franchises. I have not, when I think about it, it's kind of weird, but I have not covered any of the Friday, or I should say, Nightmare on Elm Street movies, which doesn't make sense because I do love those movies and I own a few of them. I don't own. I'm trying to think. I don't own really any of them on. I don't really own any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies on Blu-ray, which is weird. The one I do own, oh no, I have it on DVD, is the really shitty remake that came out maybe like 10 years ago. They tried to reboot the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and it's kind of awful. And I saw it in the theater, and it's really shitty. I have a few of the other movies. I have the original on VHS. I have A New Nightmare, which I think is really awesome, on DVD. I'm a huge fan of that series. I am. And again, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were a big part of my youth. Like, that was my generation of horror. You had Freddy and you had Jason, like, and Michael Myers, like, three of the most iconic figures in horror. And so I watched all those films. I always remember loving all of them. I do need to buy them on Blu-ray. I don't know why I haven't. And again, I've never seen. It would be pretty amazing to see Nightmare on Elm Street, especially the first one, because I think the first one is just amazing. Like, it's super general. I think it's generally very scary and very creepy. I actually remember those movies kind of scaring me more than than Friday 13th, with the exception of the first Friday 13th. That generally really scared me as a kid. That got under my skin. But the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie really terrified me. It gave me nightmares, literally. So to see it, and I only have it and I've seen it, a billion times, but I don't actually own it. Mainly through, seeing it as a kid, and then I have a really good VHS copy of it. My VHS player isn't really hasn't really been, has been dead. So I have not seen it in a long time, and I have not, ever seen it on Blu-ray. So I'm sure that would be amazing, like really amazing. So that is something I need to do at some point to pursue. This copy I have this on DVD, and again, I need to get an upgrade, but and I got this really cheap. It's a 2 disc set. The second disc, when I bought this movie, I bought it really cheap. I got it from Movie Gallery, which anybody out there remembers Movie Gallery. Movie Gallery was a franchise store, like kind of like Blockbuster, but not as big. They were a chain, and they're long dead, long gone. There used to be a movie gallery right here in town, and I used to go there. It's hard to believe that there were three big video shops. You had Opera House Video, which is still going strong. I was just there the other day renting movies yesterday. Crazy. I don't know how they do it, but you had Opera House Video, which has been around for like ever. They were when I first came to Maine. They were going, full on. And then you had Movie Gallery, like this one, and then you had Harbor Auto Video, which was a really great place. That was in Camden, Maine, which is about 15 minutes away. That place was awesome. They had an amazing foreign film selection, and they had a pretty good horror selection. And the thing about Harbor Auto Video that was so great was they had a really amazing foreign film selection, and they had an amazing documentary selection. They had a lot of good stuff, a lot of great films, and I used to go there all the time. But when all of these places closed, I went there and just bought as much shit as I could. I bought tons of movies, and when I went to Movie Gallery when they were closing, they had a big, blowout sale, and I this was one of the movies I bought, and I bought a bunch of movies there. And it's funny there now that I think of it, there were two locations. There was one in Belfast, and then there was one I think in Rockport or Camden also. So it's like there was one, yeah, there was one. There used to be one in Camden. So it was like at one point there was like four places to go to rent movies, and it was like 10, 12 years ago. It's nuts. Maybe a little bit more at this point. And I bought this, years and years ago, and probably after it came out. And I didn't get a chance to see this in the theater, but I've seen this movie a shit ton of times. And the thing that sucks about this collection is that it's missing the second disc, which is the special features. So there's no special features, but I bought it for like $2 or $3. But it's awesome. I mean, it's a fantastic movie. I definitely need to get an upgrade for this movie on Blu-ray. It is, again, I think this is like the ultimate, an example of like the ultimate payoff, like where it's really satisfying. They did a really great job. They really, really brought all guns blazing. It's not, anticlimactic. Like it's really great, and it's a great blending of both of these worlds, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. Gory as hell, great ending, great beginning, great use of, and a delicate way of blending both of these worlds and the mythology. But I think this movie totally kicks ass. It's really, really great. I had tried doing a Film Fanatic watch party around this movie twice. Scheduling things got in the way. I wasn't able to do it, but maybe someday. But awesome movie. I definitely need to get an upgrade on this. This would be awesome to see on Blu-ray. But if you haven't seen this movie, it's fantastic. Again, another example in this whole series that a lot of these movies I think are good enough that you could call them standalone movies. Like they kind of do their own thing. And they all are they're all very good at giving you a basic, kind of recap in the beginning of each film as to like what is kind of going on, to give you your bearings and what more or less has happened in the previous film. They do a really good job in that realm, which is really hard to do. I mean, there's a shit ton of movies out there. Now we're in the age of where franchises are a constant thing, and so there's a lot of times where that doesn't happen, and you really need to see, all six movies that came before it to understand like what the fuck is going on. But these obviously this is pretty the world, and to be able to comprehend these movies is pretty straightforward. So, but really great, really awesome movie. So yeah, and so after this one, I have two more movies, two more discs to cover. I have the Friday 13th reboot, which was technically the last Friday 13th movie that came out, and then I have this documentary that I got, which is the documentary itself is really terrible, but what the thing that is awesome is it's a documentary about Jason Voorhees and the Friday 13th series. And the documentary itself is it's super cheesy, it's terrible, and it's really unwatchable. But the thing that's really cool about this disc is that the bonus features, there's interviews with every actor who played Jason Voorhees. Everyone in the entire series, and it's really good. It's really awesome, and they're like kind of uncut interviews with each of the guys who've played Jason Voorhees. It's really interesting, and there's a really great interview with Ted White on it. It's really awesome, and so that's the thing I really love about this disc. The documentary itself is trash, but that is really cool, and I've watched that a bazillion times. So stay tuned for the next show, and we will see you next time. Peace.